Welcome back, everyone. And give a couple moments for people to hop on. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just getting back from Mexico. Such a beautiful time in the jungle, taking some space for myself, digest, to just remove myself from a lot of things. And that's going to lead into one of the topics that we're going to talk about today, which is space, holding space. Um, but yeah, let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know how you are doing today. How are you doing, especially if you have been tuning in to previous lives, if you've been practicing the somatic awareness practice? How are you doing? How are you feeling? If there's one word that's coming up for you, share it. Share it in the chat. Would love to see. Also, let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. What's up, Morgan? What's up, Jamie, Victor? Welcome, welcome. Ah, so let's talk about space. Space allows digestion of your experiences. Let me read this one. Today marks 3 weeks straight of somatic breathwork with Morgan's guided practices. I hope you read that, Morgan. Morgan, such an incredible human. But yeah, let's dive in. So I'll give you a little story, a little bit of background on myself as well in that story. So I originally went to school for addiction psychology and also physical therapy. I couldn't decide if I wanted to go down the mind route or the physical route, the body route. And through that process of studying both, a Western perspective of our mind and, addiction, and also physical alignment and our posture and all of the modern issues that happen to our body, I um I was obsessed with learning. And how many of you resonate with the archetype of the seeker? Probably most of you that are following our Instagram are seekers out there. If you're a seeker, give me a little wave or a little clap. I've definitely been a seeker. And I'm obsessed with learning. I want to learn as much as possible. I want to take in as much as possible. And for me, it's not about just taking in information, but it's about connecting it. I always wanted to connect Western understanding with Eastern understanding, the energetic understanding with the physical understanding, and how do those integrate together. And so through studying so much different information in my life, reading books, listening to podcasts, taking courses, studying different modalities, all the different healing modalities from, fascial stretch therapy to neuromuscular therapy to polarity therapy to cranial sacral therapy to somatic psychology to, cognitive behavioral therapy to acupressure to Rolfing, all of these different modalities. I took in so much information. And especially in our world with Instagram and we live in this age of information where we have everything at our fingertips. We have all of this outside information and we're taking in so much. But when that happens, we actually lose touch of the subtle information that's going on inside. And that is a whole different skill set to learn. That is a whole different skill set. And what that requires is that requires space from taking in other information. I took 2 years off of learning. Let me know, for those of you that are seekers, let me know, have you ever taken time off from taking in information, from reading books, from maybe even watching things on Instagram? Have you taken a week off? we're constantly taking in so much external information and we don't actually hear the internal information that's going on. And that's one thing that could like really speed up the process if you tune into previous lives, learning the somatic awareness process, reconnecting your mind back to your body. It requires space. How many of you have ever ever studied meditation? How many of you have ever heard people talk about like, hey, just become still, just become still? It took me a while to really understand this, but meditation is not about stillness. It's about slowness. It's about slowing down. It's about spaciousness because you're never still. Even when you're sitting still in meditation, there are so many subtle things that are going on within your body that you actually can start to hear all of the different little subtle informations, but it takes space. It takes space. And we'll get into holding space. Holding space is a whole other different thing. It's being able to create a space for someone to become slow and tune into themselves and digest their experience, digest their information. That's essentially what's going on in a somatic breathwork session is we're creating a space for people to have space, to take up space, so that they can digest all of the things, whether it's trauma, whether it's unprocessed emotions, whether it's unprocessed physical movement in their body, whether it's unprocessed and undigested thoughts and information and creativity. I just took 2 weeks in Mexico and kind of unplugged, and I was doing lots of temescals and lots of body work and breath work and watching the sunrise every morning and just kind of trying to tune out. And it's amazing for the first 2 days how much information, specifically in my head, was coming through. I was having so many ideas and so much creativity. And it took me at least 2 days for that to actually slow down a little bit, not necessarily become still, but to slow down and to actually like see clearly which idea actually resonates with me. Because a lot of the times, I don't know about you, but not every idea is actually worth like going into. Not every thought that you have is actually worth diving into. And especially if you're a creative, like artistic human like myself, I have so many ideas and so many things I want to do that I become overwhelmed and I go into fight or flight or freeze and then I don't do anything. So it took me a couple days to actually become slow, not just still, but to become slow. And when you become slow, you become sensitive. And when you become sensitive, you become full of sensory awareness. And at that point, you can start to hear the truth inside of yourself. You can start to hear the parts of your body that are speaking to you. You can start to reconnect the mind back to the body. The first step in healing anything is to become aware of it. And like Gabor Mate says, the first step in healing trauma is to reconnect the mind back to the intelligence of the body. And the only way you can reconnect back to the intelligence of the body is to take space, to become slow, not just still, but to become slow and sensitive, full of sensory awareness. And sometimes that requires I would start off with like, you know, taking a day out of the week, Sunday, turn off your phone, turn off your computer. Don't take in any information. Don't read any books. Don't listen to any podcasts. Don't listen to online courses. Don't listen to me. Listen to your body. Listen to yourself. That will allow you to digest and really start to reconnect back to your body, back to your soul, back to your heart. You'll be able to listen where certain information is coming from. And that's one of the most important things is to know if something's coming from your head or your heart. This past year has been such a journey for me of reconnecting to my heart and healing my heart after I went through pretty intense breakup earlier this year. The mind will speak over the heart. The mind speaks loudly, the heart speaks softly. The mind will go through loops and tunnels and it'll say, if you do this, then this will happen, and these people will think this of you, and then all of these happens. And you know when a message is coming from the mind because you'll go through all those loops and tunnels, versus if something's coming from the heart, it speaks softly, it speaks slowly, and it doesn't speak over your mind. That requires space. All of these different modalities, whatever it is, body work, breath work, meditation, they're all self-inquiry practices that are really actually getting you to take a moment in time space for yourself to tune in to yourself, because your body know your body best. We live in a world where we go to other people to tell us what's wrong with us or what we need to do with our life. There's a switch, there's a massive repatterning, reparadigm, like a paradigm shift of becoming responsible. You are responsible for your life. You are the only one that can respond from you. To become response able means you have the ability to respond. Responsibility is one of the most spiritual things that you can embody. And I know that sounds like adulting, but to become response able means that you're taking your power back, that you are responsible. And that requires listening to yourself. What's true for you? Can you hear over the noise of all the information and all of the stuff that you're taking in all the time? And can you integrate it? And that's been the breakthrough on the other side of taking space, is where innovation happens. And that's where your creativity happens. For those of you that are watching our Instagram, and you might see a lot of people having emotional expressions and releases, and that's powerful, but that's not what this is about. That's one part of it. Because we live in a world that's so suppressed, we have to express a lot of the things and move through and digest and release a lot of the things that's kept us trapped. But eventually that expression becomes, how do I turn it into an art form? How do I sing my unique song in the world? How do I throw my own unique spin on something? That's kind of how I created somatic breathwork. I truly believe that it was because I took years of my life absorbing as much information as possible, and then I took 2 years off and didn't do anything. I basically lived in the in a little wizard. I called it my wizard den in Sedona with no distractions. I didn't even really have any cell service there, but I started to meditate. I started to practice breath work. I started to become slow. I started to spend time on the land. I started to listen to the internal voice inside of me that said, let's 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 take all this information that you've learned and let's strip it of all the unnecessary stuff. And let's distill it down to its purest essence. What is the truth inside that resonates in your body? You'll notice, like, a lot of people speak on social media and it's all coming from the head. It's all information that's been regurgitated over and over and over again. But you can tell when someone like really understands it and it really makes sense to them. Not Does not make sense to the mind, but makes sensation in the body because it will land for you in a different way. The first step is that to take space. I'm curious if this is resonating for you, if this is landing for you, if it's landing and resonating in your body. Let me know what some of the ways that you take space to digest your mental information, to digest and to process your emotions. Let me know. What are your favorite ways? I'm curious. Travel is a great one. I'm learning the art of traveling and how best to set that up for myself for processing my own stuff and becoming clear in my head. Um, it's been a beautiful process for me. Journaling is a great one. I'm curious, what type of journaling do you do? There's so many different types of journaling. Is it free writing? Do you have prompts? Let me know. I want to challenge you, if you're open to it, to just commit. There are three main pillars for me in my healing journey. First one is commitment. Got to be committed. The second one is curiosity, and the third one is grace. Curiosity and grace, but overall is commitment. Got to commit to it. You got to stay curious. That's the explorer of your internal world and your external world. You have to have grace because your healing journey is never going to end. It's not as long as you're alive. So I watch a lot of people become really hard on themselves because they're actually here, but they want to be over there. But here's where it's at. Here, right here where you're at is where it's at. That's where the juice is at. So I want to challenge you to take an hour out of your day where you're not taking in any information, whether it's a walk in the forest, whether it's journaling, whatever it is, whether it's breath work, take some space for yourself, time and space to digest. And that is the key to holding space for another person. It's cultivating enough inner spaciousness. You can feel when you're with somebody and they're very busy. They're like their field, their nervous system field, their aura, you could call it an auric field, you could call it an electromagnetic field, you could call it your extended nervous system around your body. It's your energy body. You can feel when it's very busy. A lot of people have very busy energy bodies. We live in a busy world. We're addicted to busyness. And when you start to take more space for yourself, when you start to cleanse, when you start to digest, when you start to um, let's dive into digestion a little bit. If you think about digesting with food, you take food in, you absorb the nutrient of it, and then you excrete the rest. You release the rest. So many of us are holding on to so much stuff that's undigested, and we never actually released it. We never, like, holding on to old shit is toxic, right? It's energetic constipation. And it's emotional constipation as well. You don't have any space. You don't have any space to think clearly. It takes space to think clearly. And that requires digestion. And that requires you developing resources to help you digest. One of those things could be breath work. One of those things could be journaling. One of those things could be walking in the forest bathing. And that's the key to actually being a practitioner. And this word, to be a practitioner, just means that you have a practice. You could be a yogic practitioner. You could be a practitioner of meditation. It means you just have a practice. And what does practice means? It's that I'm doing something over and over and to just try to become better at it. I think about, medical practitioners where they think they know everything. And anybody that says they know everything about the body, mind, and they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. We don't look at like the practice mentality means that, hey, I'm learning, that I'm going to become better at it. And to be a somatic breathwork practitioner means that I'm practicing holding space for other people through nervous system communication, through developing my meta skills of attunement, of co regulation, of holding space, of developing my capacity and range, and how much I can actually witness another person in their full expression, no matter what it is. So that's the segue into be, even if you are not a somatic breathwork practitioner, you still have the opportunity to be a practitioner, because you have everyday life to practice. Every time you come into contact with somebody, you have an opportunity to hold space for them. But that requires you to develop enough inner spaciousness. Let me know if this is resonating and this is landing for you. Would love to take a couple moments and answer some questions. I had a couple other topics that I could dive into as well. Appreciate that, Jenna. Spiritual, Carolyn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Is this integrating and connecting? Integration just means healing. Like when you're digesting, you're integrating, you're making connections, and you're releasing things. How do you deal with overwhelm? Overwhelm means that you don't have any space, means that you don't have any capacity. I'm talking about space right now, and let's look at it like you only have so much time and space on this in this life. You only have so much, like when you took your first breath and eventually take your last, you only have so much capacity. And then your life is in between that, and you get to decide what you do with that space and who you are and what you become and all of those things. Well, the same thing inside of your day. You get to decide what you do with that space. If you are overwhelmed, it means that you have too much stuff filling up the space. You have too much information. So for you, Erica, it's like first, practicing that somatic awareness practice enough to develop enough awareness of where is the overwhelm happening? Is it happening in my mind? Is it happening in my emotions? Is it actually just happening in my body? Am I just tired? Am I doing too much physically? So first it requires kind of exploring and seeing, where am I overwhelmed? Overwhelmed usually is a mental thing. There's too much stuff in the mind. Too much stuff in the mind. You're doing too much. You're taking in too much information. You're thinking too much. Take some space, get into your body. Take some space for whatever you're processing mentally, and go and do something that gets you in your body. And a lot of the times it will work itself out. When you get your body right, the mind is not happening inside of your head. The mind is a byproduct of what your antenna, which is your spine, your nervous system, it's a byproduct of what that's tuning into. So the state of your antenna, the state of your body, if you are stressed, your body is in a fight or flight state. We are we are animals. When an animal is stressed, it's going to lash out on everyone. It's going to become reactive to everything. And so getting your body out of a fight or flight state is super important. There's multiple tools to do that. And a lot of the times the mind will become much more clear. I had someone ask a question. Let me scroll back here. What is your system actually based in, and actual lineages or evidence-based models? Well, I can tell you a lot of the schools of thought and what things that I studied, and I say a majority of what my schools of thought are from a Western standpoint. Well, one, holotropic breathwork, which has had multiple studies done and evidence-based models. and also oxygen advantage, which is more performance CO2, CO2 tolerance breathing. That's where the breathwork aspect comes of it. Now, the practitioner or the body work side of things, polarity therapy has been probably the most influential modality in my life. It was created by a man named Dr. Randolph Stone, who was he, you should look him up. Look up digitaldrstone.com and go look at some of the images on there. The He has multiple books on polarity therapy, but it's based off of Ayurveda. And he did a really good job at bridging the gap between the Western understanding of our nervous system and our, anatomy and physiology with the actual energetics, the actual quantum physics of our body as well too, and how it gets stored in the field, in the relational field between yourself and another person. Um, Plus, there's been so many other, systems that it's that my work is based in. Peter Levine with somatic experiencing is another one. There's plenty of evidence-based models. I mean, we were just recently certified through Arizona State University to offer continuing education credits to therapists. So if you have more questions around that, just reach out to us. I appreciate that question. Let me see. Let me scroll back up and see what other ones are coming through. So I talked about space, taking space in your life, because I just took some space for me and I had so much clarity on why do they say hindsight's 2020? It's because you had some space, some time in space. They say time heals all wounds, but it's not time, it's actually just taking space from something. Because it could take a long time, it could take a short time, but it depends what you do with that time. Did you fill that time? Or did you actually have spaciousness around that time? Did you cultivate enough inner space within that time? So it doesn't always have to take a long time, but it depends on the space that you took within that time. So one other thing that I'll dive into within this, space, holding space for another person. For those of you that have tuned into our lives, I've gone over somatic awareness, the somatic awareness practice. It's so important to reconnect your mind back to your body. It is the one practice that I truly think that will actually change the world, because what it is doing is it's actually reconnecting you to how you are feeling and what's going on inside of you. And imagine if we lived in a world where everybody actually was in touch with their truth and what's going on inside of them. And from that place, it starts with somatic awareness, reconnecting your mind back to the intelligence of your body, the intelligence of nature. Your body is nature. You are a biological entity. If you look at the macro manifestation of this, we have lost touch with nature. We don't live symbiotically with nature anymore. The same thing is happening inside of you. You live in your mind and you're not connected to the nature of your body. That requires space. That requires slowness to start to be able to reconnect and listen to the intelligence of your body. And so somatic awareness is first, developing, separating, is something coming from my mind, is something coming from my emotions, is something just coming from my physical body. Then developing somatic literacy. Because we are communal beings, we communicate with each other, we live in community. Our purpose here is to commune, to connect with each other. It starts with being able to actually tune into how I'm feeling, what's going on inside of me. Then developing somatic literacy, being able to actually communicate how I feel, to put it into words. I struggled with this as a child. I still sometimes struggle with this. Being able to put into words how I am feeling, being able to actually be in touch with what's going on inside of myself, and then being able to actually tell another person in words, and not just words, Then it becomes somatic relating. Can I actually hear and listen to another person? Can I actually be present? Because I've had enough space and time digesting my own stuff and connecting to my own body and being able to put it into words. Therefore, that's the precursor to be actually being able to be in relation with another person, because I can communicate and then feel like I got it across. And now I can actually listen to another person. I can actually attune. I can actually receive. For those of you that are overwhelmed, you can't receive another person. You don't have any space. You're not going to be able to hold space for another person. And, I always say this is like listening requires not listening. When to truly listen to another person, it requires not listening to all of the thoughts, all of the preconceived notions, all of the judgments that you have in your mind. It actually, like, listening to another person requires not listening to all the distractions, all the noise that's happening in this range. It requires being able to fully receive and fully absorb. And that is what we crave most. We crave to be understood, we crave to be felt. We talk about this concept of being seen and heard by another person. We all want to feel seen and heard, right? That is probably one of the most healing things, is to be seen and heard, to be understood by another person. But it's beyond being seen and heard, it's being felt by another person. I want to know that you feel me, right? You want to be felt. Like, are you feeling me? Are you feeling me or not? So if you're not feeling me, then I want to connect with someone that actually feels me. That's what we crave in relationship. That's what we crave in friendship. Those are the people that we want to be around, is the people that feel us. I appreciate that, Jenna. I'm feeling you too. Thank you. Um, it's not about being seen and heard, because I could look at you and I could hear you, but can I feel you? And that requires developing our inner spaciousness, our own space. So, yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble today. And thanks for, yeah, thank you for those that commented and asked questions. Thank you for tuning in. Um, yeah, this movement has been so special. There's like nothing else that I'd rather do with my time before it's my time. So please stay in touch. Please reach out to us. Please message me if you have any questions. If we can support you in any way, I'm truly so grateful for you, Somatic family. Truly, truly. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you. I'll see you next.